All right, so welcome everyone to part one of our two-part discussion about Limelight, Final Gravity's cover of it, and the video. And this is the first one of these videos we're doing. And just for those who don't know, the band Final Gravity, our name is actually from a brewing term because we're all very into beer. And so we're going to start off this video, and probably a lot of our videos, with what are you drinking? Now, I am drinking Blind Pig IPA from Russian River, which is surprisingly easy to find in the era of COVID. So I guess that's a very faint silver lining around the dark cloud of COVID, is the Russian River beer is easier to find. So Blind Pig IPA.
Cheers. I'm having a Franziskaner Weissbier, which is a fancy term for German Hefeweizen. A little bitter, a little banana flavored, and fairly light because it's late in the evening and I don't want to get too drunk to sleep.
As we film this is about 9 p.m., so I've had a little bit of a head start. I've had a few, but I'm currently on vodka cranberry Red Bull.
Our favorite beer.
I'm drinking Elysium Space Dust IPA.
Wait, hold on. Don't go anywhere. Don't move. Hold on.
Because I really like space, actually. Figuratively and literally, I like space. Ah, there you go.
Product placement.
Awesome pick. I've had a whole bunch of those today.
Limelight is a song off of Moving Pictures, Rush's 8th studio album, and it was their big breakthrough. It's the one record that most people, even if they're just casual fans, they probably have Moving Pictures and they know Tom Sawyer and they probably know Limelight. It's a fairly short song and it doesn't have a lot of incredibly difficult parts, but the whole thing is so intricately arranged and all the parts work together and play off of each other that it's a lot harder to play it right than it sounds like. So I thought it would be a good challenge. And since it's fairly short, it's not 10 minutes that we have to spend a month learning it so we can all play it together.
I mean, I think for me, Limelight is like one of my very favorite Rush songs. I mean, I love just the arrangement of it, the odd meter, and the way it kind of switches around. It's probably my very favorite Alex Lifeson guitar solo, and I think it's Alex's favorite solo. And I think from a philosophical standpoint, it really sums up kind of Neil Peart's feeling about the tension of being a musician, but also being a star and kind of navigating through that. I think Charles will have a story coming up along those lines.
I really like the poetry of the song, actually.
I think it's amazing how many of my friends, even on social media, Facebook, have quoted lyrics from that song. And I think that's amazing that the drummer kind of created that. And even in mixing the audio for our little Final Gravity cover of that song, it's amazing how easy it was to mix the audio. And I think the credit of that is the arrangement. Everything has space. So when they wrote that song, you don't have to create space. Everybody, all the instruments just have their own little place in there. They all work together and they all have a place to shine and they all don't get in each other's way. And I think that's, I think it's genius.
The lyrics to Limelight really are about being a private person that's thrust into the public eye. And it's about the tension of trying to balance your desire for privacy with the fact that everybody thinks they own a part of you because they like your band. And Neil has written several books, of course, prose, as well as a lot of lyrics that all touch on this subject. And so he's an intensely private person that only allows a certain amount of his life to be seen by the public, and he really wants to be not part of a public life or discord. I mean, there's a Rush bootleg called Run from the Fans, which is kind of a commentary on what he does. I mean, it's pretty well known if you're a Rush fan that the minute Neil would finish a show, he would literally run off the drum riser to the back of the arena, get in a waiting vehicle, and be gone within 90 seconds of the show ending. So that's how intensely private he is. Back in October of 2014, the movie Whiplash came out. I went to see a different movie at the Landmark Theater. I was standing in line to get concessions, and I just happened to look over to my left, and Neil Peart was standing right there. Like I could have reached out and put my fingertips on his shoulder. And he was with his wife, Carrie, who I recognized from seeing pictures of the two of them. And it just, I mean, here's a man whose philosophy and his lyrics and his dedication to constantly bettering himself has been sort of a guiding light for my own life, to always look at him as sort of my hero. And here's a guy that, my whole life, I mean, I grew up kind of without a dad. So in a way, he was in some small amount sort of a substitute dad figure for me. I always looked up to what he did and kind of wished I could be like him. And then here he is right there. And then for a split second, I said, wait, is it Tom Hanks? I said, no, it's definitely Neil Peart. And I was just, it was like lightning struck me. I was going to just talk to him like, oh my God, thank you for being so awesome, or you're so cool, or whatever. And then suddenly I thought of the lyrics to Limelight. I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend. And I just said, you know what? The best thing you can do if you're a Rush fan and you see Neil, I mean, if you happen to make eye contact, just like smile or nod and he'll get it. Otherwise, like, don't bug him. He's having a night out at the movies with his wife. And so thinking mainly of the Limelight lyrics, I just kind of just let it go, and I went and told my girlfriend, who was already in the theater, I'm like, oh my God, Neil Peart was out there. But, when he was actually there, I knew he was going to see Whiplash too. And eventually he did write a review of it, and he really didn't like the movie very much. But anyway, that's my brush with greatness story.
So along those lines, Rush played their final show just over 5 years ago at the Forum, and I had tickets for it. I didn't realize when I bought them, it would be the last show on the tour. And at the very end, to your point, Charles, about, Neil running, he came out and he took a bow with Geddy and Alex after the last song was done. And he referred to it as, coming out from the back line meridian, which he never did, at least not for years. And I kind of knew at that moment that was going to be the last probably live show that Rush played, because he just had that fierce moral code. When he broke it, I'm like, I think he's done.
Oh, I did want to just throw one other thing in here. This is my Geddy Lee jazz bass. And you see Geddy Lee autographed it for me there. So that's, I've never met him, but he actually held this bass. So it's like, woo, mojo. I did not play that bass on this song.
So I played Limelight, for years, many times. And it was kind of interesting because when I really, thought, okay, I want to try to get this, not note perfect, but pretty close to the original, I kind of realized that I was playing a few parts wrong. I mean, subtly wrong, but so I use, a couple of YouTube videos. I just listened a lot. I have a program called N.E.P where you can slow down and loop audio, and I really was pretty, retentive about trying to match stuff up. So that was probably the main thing I did, which is still, reviewing the videos, just playing it a lot, because it's a relatively simple song, but kind of harder to play than you might think.
No, same with me. I played that song years ago, and I hadn't played it, maybe over 10 years. And when we first talked about videotaping it and recording it and releasing it as a cover, I spent about 2 hours in the garage reviewing it, and then I promptly went in and recorded it. So I probably had about 2 hours prep, recorded it, and that's what it is. So, I mean, and it wasn't even just figuring the song out, because I think I had so much of the song in my head, but I think it was really fun just to know I felt like I was connected to the song, work out a few of the little details, and just go for it. It wasn't a meticulous labor. It was just a matter of just going for it.
It took probably a couple of weeks to learn it, because I was so busy at my work and I have so many things going on at home that I would come home and work on it for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and just learn a couple of bars. I mean, I've been listening to the song for 39 years, but it just, to actually, when I listen to a song, a lot of times I hear all the instruments and I listen to the arrangement, but after you've heard it a lot of times, I kind of stop doing that and I just listen to the melody and the feel. So here I am trying to learn Limelight. It's like, why is this so hard? I've heard this song literally thousands of times. And there's a saying among bass players that all the money's in the last 5 frets in the neck. And except for one note, which is the 6th fret, everything in Limelight happens at the very bottom of the neck. And it's very busy and the hands are moving constantly. And patterns don't repeat. You get to a part, and it's a real Rush hallmark, that you'll have the same part of a song, but they play it differently than they did the last time. So it's not like you can just learn 3 parts and cycle them around and have the song down in an hour. At least I can't. So it was a real grind. And in the end, I was learning it like just a couple of bars at a time. It was tough. But once I got pretty confident in it, I laid it all down in 2 takes. So it was pretty simple eventually.
Yeah, I spent a few hours on it, kind of like John, where I recorded it, but then I came back and re-recorded it about a week or 2 weeks later, right? Because I wanted to get a better recording. And when I revisited the song, I kind of started hearing it like where when you hear something for the first time and you have this oh, it's not there's these little inflections that are actually really smooth, and the way that he would do some of the endings on the notes, or the choices of where the notes would go, where the singing actually wasn't so rigid and harsh, and it would soften. And I started noticing these little details, and so I then, when I re-recorded it, started incorporating that aspect of it, and it did actually help with connecting with the meaning for me of the song.
What Melissa said, even one step further, I love how even in this song, there's odd time, and it's so fluid. You don't even notice there's odd time, and that's one of my favorite things about Rush, is that they make everything so accessible. They don't reveal, or they don't show on their cuff, what they've got going on. I love that it's in there, but they're not fun.
So we're going to be posting to our Facebook page and social media a link to a Rick Beato video called "What Makes This Song Great," and it's about Limelight. And I picked up a few cool things about the guitar from that, which I'll talk about in a minute. But he has one part in the video where he got the isolated tracks from Limelight, which is really cool. And he actually played a couple of Geddy's vocals. And Geddy had this reputation for being a shrieker and really harsh vocals, but he played a couple of parts in there where his like pitch and intonation was like just dead on. And he was like gushing about Geddy's vocal performance. And it really made me kind of appreciate, what a good singer he actually is, despite what all the naysayers say.
Did you get some of the guitar ideas from the way that Rick broke it down and had the isolated tracks about how to like EQ them or put effects on them or anything?
Well, so I actually recorded my parts live while I videoed them. So I went right into Pro Tools and actually recorded myself while I played. And so when I did that, there was a thing from the Rick Beato video where he actually isolated the audio, and there's a dirty guitar part, but it has some overdubbed clean guitar on there. So the sort of arpeggiated part in the middle of the verse. And so the Paul Reed Smith that I played on the song, it has a piezo pickup in addition to the magnetic pickup. So I actually ran 2 outputs on there to 2 different channels of Pro Tools. And when I actually prepped the audio to send over to John, I basically did the dirty part, which is the main kind of rhythm guitar part, but then I did like superimpose some of that kind of more jangly piezo pickup on there. So that was a really cool tip, and I think it added a little bit of nice sheen to that part.
But there was another video called "Getting the Geddy from Your Jazz Bass" that I referenced, and it was from an engineering standpoint, and the guy really broke down like how he thought that the pickups were set. Apparently, he thinks that it was the bridge pickup on a jazz bass. I'm sorry, not the bridge, the neck pickup only. He said it's not, the jazz bass is known for having that strong bridge sound, but on this song, he thinks it was rolled off. He recorded the part with several different basses to show how they all can kind of sound the same after you run them through all the processing and distortion. And I got a lot of tips for how to EQ the tracks, like certain frequencies. When he broke it down, he's like, well, Geddy, they seem to pump it up here and they pulled down some of these. So even though I was playing a Rickenbacker and Geddy played a jazz, those EQ suggestions were still useful to get in the ballpark of the right kind of sound. It's not really the same. I wasn't going for the exact tone, but it's in the ballpark.
Yeah, and I love your tone on the finished product. So.
Yeah, just as a note, I don't know how much of that John eventually engineered, but I recorded it out of my amp. I went straight out of the amp with after the effects, after the overdrive and the compression and the EQ. I just did it direct out to recording. So You know, I didn't add any effects. I wanted it to sound like if we were playing together on a stage somewhere, this is what my sound would be.
Yeah, I actually went direct into Pro Tools, and I actually have a Line 6 emulator that's very much like my Helix foot pedal. So I did all my tones out of there. So, the benefit is it gave me flexibility. The pitfall is that it gave me flexibility. I kind of tweaked my tones a lot, and I'm maybe thinking of upcoming covers to maybe commit more as I go into Pro Tools.
Well, for me, Neil Peart was always one of my biggest influences. So even when I bought my DW drum set, a lot of the sizes and amount of toms and drums that I have in my kit is sort of influenced by that style of music. So it's very contemporary nowadays to have a smaller drum set with bigger sized drums, but I have a lot of tom-toms that sort of influence how you can kind of play those prog rock style songs. So for me, it was so cool to sit down and play a song like Limelight that it was relatively easy for me to implement that style of song into the drum kit that I have. It was very influenced by songs of that era. So interestingly, I almost don't think I play more modern songs very well because I don't have a more modern style kit. I've got something more influenced by something from Rush and Neil Peart's heyday.
Well, you found the right band if we're not playing modern.
I was gonna say, I like it.
I think you need more toms. Isn't your kit down one time? You got to replace that one, man.
I've got bad aim, so I figured I'll hit something, right?
How do we feel about how the recording turned out?
Everyone in this band is amazing, and it's so cool that we have the ability to do this level of amazing sound just from our homes and through the experience that we've accumulated over the years. And I've always thought John is super awesome superstar, mastering the overall sound, and I love everything that I've ever done with John to do with recording.
Well, on that note, not kidding around, I did too much to the mix. It's such a great job of recording their own parts, and like I mentioned earlier, it's such a well-arranged song that when you just, again, everyone recorded the parts at home. We didn't go to professional studios, and you just brought it all into the same project and lined it all up, and it sounded great, like right there. So kudos to everybody for doing such an amazing job playing the song, recording the song, and again, just going back to writing. Neil and Rush and everyone else writing an amazing song. It just comes together so easy. So that just really just goes to show where true genius lies and why that's such an amazing song and why they're such an amazing band.
I was really happy with not only how my bass sounded, but when I heard the drums, I heard the guitar, I heard the vocals. And, we first got a rough mix together. I was like, oh, yeah, this is sounding good. In fact, I listened to a lot of other bands covering Limelight on YouTube as we were doing it, just to see what's out there. What have people done with the song? And I hope it doesn't come across as too much hubris, but I think our version really rocks. It's got a very in your face, it's not polite. It's very, very immediate. And a lot of bands, I don't think, when they cover a song, I almost think they're too polite. They just kind of, let's get it note perfect and get it exactly clean and sterile. And it's like, ours is a little dirty. And I like that. I don't know if that's the mix or just the way we recorded it, or we're just dirty people, but
I think
we are dirty people.
That sometimes people try to want to replicate exactly what was done before, or they totally want to redo it and make it completely different. And sometimes that puts off people that appreciated what the song was originally. I think the thing I'm most excited about is that we took the song, paid homage to what was respectable in it, a little twist on it. So I kind of feel like it was our own little interpretation of the song without trying to emulate it or redo it. I think it was a legitimate homage.
Yeah, I think it's more like about having a way that you connect with the song, and that's how you make it your own, just by connecting with it on an emotional level. And so that really comes out in the playing, I think. If you're trying to be rigid and you're trying to be super fulfilling whatever to make the critics happy, and you don't give yourself that opportunity to connect with what you're doing, that's where you lose some of that appeal, or that it comes through in the sound more than people realize. And I think I really enjoyed singing this. I think you guys really enjoyed playing it, and you can hear that.
All right, so that was our discussion of Limelight, the recording of the song and the cover we did. Please stay tuned. In a couple of days, we're going to be posting part 2, where we'll talk about the Limelight video, and we'll do a very special toast to the late, great Neil Peart.